Welcome to the History AI podcast, where the past comes alive with facts, anecdotes, and a dash of humor. Here are your hosts, Chuck and Marco.
Hello, history buffs. Welcome back to another episode of the History AI podcast. I'm Chuck.
And I'm Marco. Today, we're diving deep into one of the most pivotal battles in Chinese history, the Battle of Changping.
This isn't just any battle, folks. We're talking about a clash that changed the course of a nation.
And remember, if you enjoy our dives into history, don't forget to rate, subscribe, and share our podcast. A 5-star review helps us reach more people and continue to grow.
Alright, let's paint the historical canvas. We're going back over 2,300 years to the Warring States period in ancient China. Imagine a time of constant turmoil, where 7 states battle for supremacy in what is now modern-day China.
Each state had its own ruler, its own army, and its own ambition. It's like a giant chessboard, with each state moving and strategizing for the ultimate prize, unification, under their banner.
And the technology and strategies of the time were fascinating. Chariots were the tanks of the battlefield, archery was a prized skill, and intricate strategies were the name of the game.
Now, enter the state of Qin. Under the rule of King Zhaoxiang, Qin was like the ambitious upstart, rapidly growing in power and hungry for more territory.
Their expansionist policies were pretty aggressive. Qin was the state that everyone was watching, sort of like the Silicon Valley startup that suddenly becomes a tech giant.
On the other side, we have the state of Zhao. Now, Zhao wasn't just sitting around. They were well aware of Qin's ambitions and were gearing up to protect their own interests.
And let's not forget the cultural backdrop. This period was rich in philosophical thought. Confucianism, Taoism, legalism, these ideas were shaping the social and political landscape.
That's right, Chuck. While generals plotted military strategies, philosophers pondered the nature of power, governance, and ethics. A fascinating contrast, really.
It was a world of intrigue, power plays, and alliances. A time when a single battle could shift the balance of power dramatically.
And that, dear listeners, sets the stage for the epic Battle of Changping, where these two formidable states, Qin and Zhao, clash in a conflict that would leave a lasting imprint on Chinese history.
So buckle up, as we dive into the details of this legendary battle.
To really understand the lead-up to this colossal clash at Changping, we need to look at the broader picture of the Warring States period. This was a time of both military innovation and political cunning.
Absolutely, Marco. The states were engaged in this intricate dance of diplomacy and warfare. Alliances were as fragile as glass, and betrayal was as common as diplomacy.
Now, let's focus on our main players. The state of Qin, under the ambitious King Zhaoxiang, had been on a roll. They had a well-organized military, advanced weaponry, and a pretty ruthless approach to expansion.
They were the ones pushing the envelope, constantly testing the waters with their neighbors. Think of Qin as the ultimate chess player in the game of territorial expansion.
And then there's Zhao. Zhao was kind of like the defender of the status quo. They were strategically positioned and had a strong military presence, especially in the northern frontiers.
Yeah, and Zhao was not just sitting back. They were actively fortifying their borders, especially around key areas like Handan, their capital, and Changping, which was like the shield guarding the path to Handan.
The lead-up to Changping was like a slow-burning fuse. Qin had already captured several smaller territories and was inching dangerously close to Zhao. Tensions were high, and both sides knew that a showdown was inevitable.
Exactly. And then there's the personal element. You've got King Zhaoxiang of Qin, who's all about making a mark on history. And on the other side, there's Zhao Kuo, stepping into his father's shoes, eager to prove his worth.
And it wasn't just about military might. There were also mind games, espionage, and psychological warfare. Spies were as common as soldiers, and misinformation was a weapon in its own right.
In the backdrop of all this, there's the constant pressure from the other states, watching and waiting, ready to jump in or back out depending on who seemed to be winning.
So when Qin finally launched its campaign against Changping, it wasn't just another battle. It was a culmination of years of tension, strategy, and the unquenchable thirst for dominance.
And that, folks, leads us to the fateful events at Changping, where these two titans finally clashed in a battle that would go down in history.
Now, let's get into the heart of the action. The Battle of Changping wasn't just a skirmish, It was a grueling campaign that stretched over 3 long years from 262 to 260 BC.
That's right. The Qin forces, led by the legendary Bai Qi, began by laying siege to Changping. Bai Qi was a master of siege warfare, and he came prepared for a long haul.
Meanwhile, Zhao, under the command of Lian Po initially, was playing it safe. Lian Po was experienced and cautious, preferring to defend and avoid direct confrontation.
But here's where it gets juicy. The Zhao king replaces Lian Po with Zhao Kuo, who is more aggressive but less experienced. A risky move, like swapping your steady quarterback for a rookie in the middle of the Super Bowl.
Zhao Kui's strategy was bold. He decided to break the siege and engage Bai Qi in open battle. It was a move that caught the Qin somewhat off guard.
The battle lines were drawn, and what followed was a series of intense engagements. The Qin were known for their iron discipline and innovative tactics, while the Zhao relied on their valor and numerical superiority.
The two armies clashed with a ferocity that was typical of the Warring States period. Chariots charged, archers let loose volleys, and infantry engaged in brutal hand-to-hand combat.
And then, Bai Qi pulls a classic maneuver. He feigns a retreat, luring the Zhao forces into a trap. Zhao Kuo, eager for a decisive victory, takes the bait.
It was a catastrophic mistake for Zhao. Bai Qi's forces encircle the Zhao army, cutting off their supply lines. Suddenly, Zhao Kui's army finds itself trapped, with dwindling supplies and no way out.
And let's not forget the psychological warfare. Bai Qi used rumors and spies to sow distrust and fear among the Zhao troops. It was a battle of wits as much as a battle of swords.
The siege of the encircled Zhao forces was brutal. Bai Qi knew that time was on his side. He simply waited, choking the life out of the trapped Zhao army.
The situation for the Zhao troops became desperate. Starvation and disease were rampant. It was a grim testament to the horrors of ancient warfare.
In the end, the Zhao army, weakened and demoralized, was finally overrun. It was a devastating defeat for Zhao and a monumental victory for Qin.
And that, listeners, is how the Battle of Changping unfolded, a masterclass in strategy, patience, and the harsh realities of war.
Within the tapestry of Changping's battle, there are countless tales of heroism and tactical genius. Let's start with the man of the hour, Bai Qi.
Bai Qi, also known as the Human Butcher, was a master tactician. His reputation was a mix of fear and respect. His strategies were not just about winning battles, but psychologically defeating the enemy.
True, Chuck. One of Bai Qi's most notable tactics was his use of terrain. He chose the battlefield at Changping carefully, a place that allowed him to maximize his army's strengths and exploit Zhao's weaknesses.
Then there's the infamous feigned retreat tactic. This wasn't just a simple ruse, it was executed with precision and timing. Bai Qi lured Zhao Kuo into a false sense of victory, leading him and his troops into a deadly trap.
On the Zhao side, despite the ultimate outcome, there were acts of incredible bravery. Zhao Kui himself, though criticized for his overzealous tactics, showed remarkable courage and determination.
Absolutely. Zhao Kuo was known for leading from the front, inspiring his troops with his bravery. There are accounts of him fighting valiantly, rallying his soldiers even in the face of overwhelming odds.
And let's not forget the soldiers themselves. The battlefields of Changping were witness to individual acts of heroism, soldiers fighting with unwavering loyalty and valor often in desperate situations.
The strategies employed at Changping also reflected a deeper understanding of warfare. For instance, Bai Qi's strategy of cutting off Zhao's supply lines was a classic move in ancient warfare, a tactic that emphasized the importance of logistics and planning.
Right. And the psychological warfare, spreading rumors, sowing discord among enemy ranks, was as much a part of Bai Qi's arsenal as his swords and spears.
It's these tactics and heroics that paint a vivid picture of the battle. It wasn't just a clash of armies, it was a clash of minds, wills, and hearts.
A true testament to the complexity and brutality of warfare in the Warring States period.
Now, let's talk about the pivotal moment in the Battle of Changping, the turning point that sealed Zhao's fate.
It all started with Bai Qi's strategic decision to cut off Zhao's supply lines. This wasn't a spur-of-the-moment decision, it was a calculated move, planned with meticulous precision.
Bai Qi knew that a direct assault on the Zhao forces would be costly. So, he chose a war of attrition. By cutting off supplies, he aimed to weaken Zhao's army, not just physically but mentally as well.
And it worked. The Zhao troops, now isolated and without reinforcements or supplies, found themselves in a dire situation. Imagine being surrounded, with dwindling food and no hope of rescue.
This was psychological warfare at its finest. The morale of Zhao's troops plummeted. Hunger and despair began to take their toll, and the once formidable Zhao army started to crumble from within.
Meanwhile, Zhao Qi, desperate to break the siege, made several attempts to attack and break through Qin's lines. But with Bai Qi's solid defensive positions, each attempt was repelled with heavy losses.
It's worth noting that Bai Qi's tactics weren't just about brute force, they were about outmaneuvering the enemy. He capitalized on Zhao Qi's inexperience and impatience.
The siege dragged on for months. The situation for the Zhao soldiers became increasingly desperate. There were even reports of famine and disease ravaging the trapped army.
And in this state of desperation, the final blow came. Bai Qi launched a massive assault on the weakened Zhao forces. It was a decisive, crushing blow that shattered what was left of Zhao's resistance.
This turning point was not just a moment in a battle, it was a defining moment in the Warring States period. It demonstrated the power of strategy over sheer force and marked the beginning of the end for the state of Zhao.
A classic example of how in warfare, sometimes the most effective weapon isn't the sword, but starvation and the slow strangulation of hope.
The aftermath of the Battle of Changping was both profound and harrowing. The scale of the defeat for Zhao was staggering.
We're talking about a monumental loss. Historical records suggest that upwards of 400,000 Zhao soldiers were captured. And what happened next was nothing short of chilling.
Bai Qi, living up to his grim nickname, ordered the execution of these captured soldiers. It was a brutal decision, reflective of the merciless nature of warfare during the Warring States period.
This mass execution sent shockwaves across the other states. It wasn't just a military victory, it was a statement of power and a psychological blow to any future opposition to Qin.
On the political front, the defeat severely weakened the state of Zhao. It lost a significant portion of its military strength, and its political standing among the other states was greatly diminished.
And let's not forget the impact on the Zhao populace. The loss of so many soldiers meant a loss of fathers, sons, and brothers. It was a tragedy that would be felt for generations.
The victory at Changping propelled Qin closer to its ultimate goal of unifying China. It showed the effectiveness of Qin's military strategies and the strength of its leadership.
It also highlighted the changing nature of warfare. The Battle of Changping was a case study in the importance of logistics, psychological warfare, and strategic planning.
And for the other states, it was a wake-up call. They realized that Qin was not just another rival state, but a formidable power capable of crushing even the strongest of enemies.
The battle had far-reaching effects on the future course of Chinese history. It set the stage for the eventual unification of China under the Qin Dynasty and the end of the Warring States period.
In essence, the Battle of Changping wasn't just a clash of armies, it reshaped the political and cultural landscape of ancient China, setting the foundation for the future empire.
A grim reminder of the cost of war and the relentless pursuit of power.
The lasting impact of the Battle of Changping reverberates far beyond its immediate aftermath. This wasn't just another battle, it was a turning point in Chinese history.
Exactly, Marco. For starters, the scale of the victory at Changping significantly accelerated Qin's path towards the unification of China. It demonstrated the effectiveness of their military strategy and the ruthlessness of their approach.
And it wasn't just about military might. The battle had profound psychological effects on the other states. The fear of Qin's power and the fate of Zhao's army served as a stark warning to any who would oppose them.
Culturally, the impact was immense. The loss of so many lives in such a brutal manner left a deep scar in the collective memory of the Chinese people. It was a sobering reminder of the costs of war and ambition.
Politically, the aftermath of Changping changed the balance of power in the Warring States period. Qin emerged as the undisputed powerhouse, and the other states had to reconsider their strategies and alliances.
This battle also showcased the importance of leadership and strategic decision-making in warfare. Bai Qi's tactics at Changping became a case study for future military leaders and strategists.
Moreover, the battle highlighted the evolving nature of warfare during this period. The use of terrain, psychological warfare, logistics, these aspects became crucial elements in military planning.
On a larger scale, the unification of China under the Qin Dynasty, which Changping helped bring closer, led to significant administrative and cultural reforms. These reforms laid the groundwork for the future development of the Chinese state.
And let's not forget, the Battle of Changping is a cautionary tale about the perils of war and power. It serves as a historical lesson on the consequences of unchecked ambition and the human cost of conflict.
In essence, the Battle of Changping wasn't just a pivotal military engagement. It was an event that reshaped the course of history, influencing the political, cultural, and philosophical development of China for centuries to come. As we wrap up, let's remember the immense human cost of this battle. It's a poignant reminder of the sacrifices made in the pursuit of power and unification.
If you've enjoyed this journey back in time, don't forget to rate and subscribe. Your support means the world to us.
And hey, we've got merchandise now. Check out the link in the show notes for some cool History AI podcast gear. And as a thank you to our listeners, we're offering a 10% discount on your first purchase. Just use the code TheHistoryAI Podcast, all one word, at checkout.
We also love hearing from you. Suggest topics through our social media channels. Who knows, your idea might be our next episode.
Until next time, keep digging into the past. I'm Chuck.
And I'm Marco. Thanks for listening to the History AI Podcast.
Step into the thrilling world of sports betting with The Starting Line, an introduction to sports betting. Whether you're a beginner or simply curious, this comprehensive guide takes you from the basics to the advanced. Learn to decode odds, develop winning strategies, and bet responsibly. Get your copy now and transform every game into an adventure. The Starting Line is your first step towards mastering the art of sports betting. Available on Amazon.